Welcome back to Comic Cappers. Today we will be capping Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 4. With that said, grab a snack, sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Gateway City is in the grip of panic. On screen, a live broadcast brings a message of defiance. Nearby, a hand scribbles a desperate note on a clipboard, capturing the chaotic energy of the moment. We pull back to see the shop owner, Gia Candy, standing with her sister, Etta. The gravity of the situation is written all over their faces as they process the broadcast. Gia prepares to leave, clutching the clipboard as she readies herself to face the crisis unfolding outside their door. Inside the quiet shop, Gia Candy looks on with a mixture of concern and resolve as the reality of the crisis sets in. She turns to her sister, Etta. The clipboard is still in hand, but the time for planning is running out as the world outside begins to unravel. They share a brief, grounding moment of physical comfort. It's the kind of quiet, human connection that's about to be tested by the cosmic scale of what's coming. Suddenly, the shop door opens. Gia looks up, startled by the unexpected arrival, her eyes wide with shock at who is standing on her doorstep. It's Steve Trevor, and he hasn't come alone. He's brought the last Amazon herself, Diana, who looms with a regal, terrifying intensity. With the massive, otherworldly form of the Tetracide looming in the city skyline behind them, Steve keeps his cool, asking for entry. Etta and Gia Candy are rightfully stunned as Steve Trevor walks in with the last Amazon herself. The shop, usually a place for quiet mysticism, is suddenly ground zero for a cosmic crisis. The sheer scale of the threat hits home. Etta is terrified, bracing for the psychic horror of the Tetracide's death sound that's currently tearing Gateway City apart. Diana steps in with a calm, commanding authority, reassuring them that she's woven a protective ward around the shop to keep the madness at bay. Introductions are made in haste. Steve establishes the gravity of the situation, officially introducing Etta and Gia to the warrior who pulled him from the literal depths of hell. Reality sets in for the sisters. There's no time for pleasantries, and the direct question hangs in the air. Why is she here? Steve explains the logic behind their desperate arrival, confirming that Diana specifically sought out their expertise in the arcane. Caught off guard by the request, Gia Candy hesitates, realizing the weight of what Diana is asking of her. Diana quickly eases the tension, clarifying that she isn't here to threaten them, but rather to scavenge for specific magical components after exhausting her own supply to silence the city's psychic screams. Diana lays it all out, revealing the brutal truth about her prosthetic arm. It's a masterpiece from Hephaestus, sure, but it's a pale shadow of what she's lost, and against the Tetracide, she knows she needs every advantage she can get. Watching the interaction, Etta Candy can't help but look at Steve Trevor with an "I told you so" expression, finally realizing that the legend of the woman who saved him in hell was actually an understatement. Diana's search for ingredients begins in earnest. While Gia Candy is skeptical about having anything as exotic as skin of Prometheus, Diana points out the dark irony. The things that were nearly impossible to find in her world are surprisingly abundant in this mundane shop. As she lists off the common herbs, Gia begins a whirlwind retrieval process, darting around the shelves to pull down yucca root, burr, walnut, althea root, and vervain. Gia pauses, holding up a vial of valerian. It's a moment of heavy subtext. She questions why Diana would need something associated with reconciliation right now, in the middle of an apocalypse. Diana's response is cryptic, suggesting that healing old wounds is just as vital as the battle itself. Diana acknowledges the tension, pushing aside the personal weight of the request to focus on the mission. She reminds Gia that while her shop is impressive, the final components she requires are much harder to source, yet she remains hopeful that they can be found. Diana gets specific, naming the final, darker ingredients: hemlock, morning glory, and datura. Her tone is grave, leaving no room for doubt. She wouldn't be asking for these deadly, volatile substances if the fate of Gateway City didn't absolutely depend on them. With the ingredients finally secured, Gia Candy makes a quick adjustment to her equipment, the faint SHFFF signaling the final preparation is underway. She turns a dial, her hand steady but purposeful, dialing in the precise settings needed for the work ahead. Next, she pulls on a pair of medical gloves, shifting the atmosphere from casual shopkeep to something far more clinical and dangerous. She carefully checks the equipment, ensuring every component is ready for the ritual that is about to unfold. Diana watches her with a mix of respect and intensity, acknowledging Gia's hidden depths. The shop owner is clearly overwhelmed by the magnitude of what she's been pulled into. Diana brings the mood back to the brutal reality of their mission. She asks for a different location for the ritual, dropping a heavy truth. This magic is going to require a significant sacrifice of blood. The tension in the room is palpable as the ritual begins. Etta and Gia are clearly rattled, bickering with Steve over the blood sacrifice, but Diana cuts through the noise with absolute authority. She invokes her mother Circe's name, calling upon Hecate in a desperate plea for the power needed to deliver justice against the Tetracide. The spell takes hold with violent force. A deafening krakow tears through the air as the magical energy surges into Diana, the sheer weight of the invocation visibly shattering the space around her. The narrative pulls us back from the immediate chaos of the ritual into a haunting flashback. We're on the Wild Isle, deep within the depths of hell, establishing the dark roots of Diana's training. We find a younger Circe, clearly distressed and gasping for air as she navigates the suffocating environment of the isle. A presence makes itself known, acknowledging the toll the magic is taking on her. The visions have begun, signaling that the connection to Hecate is deepening. The voice, cold and authoritative, addresses Circe as her most devoted and beloved disciple, reinforcing the twisted mentorship that shaped Diana's future. Circe challenges the entity, demanding to know if this torment was orchestrated by them. The response is chillingly evasive, confirming their hand in her suffering while maintaining a sense of inevitable destiny. Circe pushes back against her mentor, her voice dripping with resentment. She challenges the very definition of love, pointing out that if she were truly beloved, she wouldn't have been left to rot in hell, degraded and forced to raise a child that wasn't her own. The mentor dismisses the complaint with a chillingly cold perspective on destiny. They speak of a cycle that keeps dying in the cradle, insisting that a new path had to be forged, even if it meant breaking minds, bodies, and hearts along the way. When asked for their own sacrifice, they claim they didn't hesitate. Expanding on their grand design, the mentor frames existence as a high-stakes game. They remind Circe that everyone has a role and a sacrifice to offer, invoking the idea that the arc of the universe should bend toward justice. The mentor reveals the calculated coldness behind their plan. They admit they would have used Circe regardless, but they also foresaw that only she could raise the hero the world needed. They even predicted that Diana's influence would change Circe, prompting a desperate, defiant outburst from the sorceress. Closing the conversation with an unsettling sense of certainty, the mentor asserts that Circe will eventually succumb to this path. They frame this dark destiny as a convergence where the needs of the mentor, the world, and Diana all align with Circe's own interest. The tension of the flashback reaches a breaking point as a massive, ethereal presence looms over Circe. It is Hecate herself, manifesting in a form that is both terrifying and divine, demanding Circe's total submission. She frames her presence as a gift, telling the sorceress floating above the desolate Wild Isle. Hecate towers over a kneeling Circe, her multi-armed form radiating an ancient, cold authority. This isn't a conversation between equals, it is a coronation of a servant. Hecate seals the moment with a chilling promise. Back in the Wild Isle, the narrative pull of the past deepens as Circe reflects on the visions that began to haunt her. She describes a destiny for Diana that was meticulously engineered by the goddesses, a blueprint for suffering and perseverance that would remain hidden until it was far too late to stop. Circe watches over a young Diana, the weight of their shared isolation pressing down on them. Haunted by her own vulnerability, Circe whispers, and also of how lonely I would be, trapped here and also without her. I had a bad dream. Seeking comfort in their mutual darkness, Circe reveals the origin of a legendary tool. She explains, "Yes, me too. It was this night I began plans to make her first lasso. Built with love and pain, magic and fire, it would be called Thaija, sacrifice. Like Diana's love, it would be transformative." As she cradles the sleeping child, Circe faces the grim reality of her foresight. When asked about the nature of her dream, she delivers a chilling, prophetic answer: the future, and like my love, it would be a prison. The blood ritual reaches its apex. Diana is bathed in a supernatural crimson glow, her resolve hardened by Hecate's influence. She offers a solemn vow to the goddess, ready to face her fate in Gateway City. Returning to herself, Diana stands with a terrifying, ethereal intensity. She acknowledges the sacrifice made by Steve, Edda, and Gia, though the physical toll is evident. Her face is literally stained with the blood used to channel this power. She is focused, lethal, and ready for the battlefield. In a brief, humanizing moment, Diana inspects a note, likely a warning or instructions left for the public. It's a grounded beat that highlights the contrast between her divine mission and the mundane reality of the city she's protecting. Diana reflects on their shared bravery. Despite the cosmic horrors looming outside, they chose to help, a decision that clearly resonates with her. It's a moment of quiet gratitude before she heads back into the fray. Before stepping back into the chaos, Diana takes a moment to address her past. She clarifies that while her work has always been about protection, her role has shifted from a detective to a private investigator in Gateway City. There's a brief, grounded exchange about her career transition. Diana wipes the blood from her face, showing a rare, vulnerable side as she accepts the observation that she has a way of making things seem better and more hopeful than they actually are. Diana questions that perception, but the look in her eyes suggests she understands the weight of the persona she carries. She's not just a warrior, she's a symbol of hope in a city that's currently burning. Practicality takes over. Diana explains that the protective bubble around the shop will fail soon, but crucially the Tetracide's deafening sonic assault is also nearing its end. She's calculating the tactical window perfectly. She bids her allies a somber farewell, clearly hoping this isn't the final time they'll meet. But as she steps out and gazes at the burning horizon of Gateway City, the reality of the mission crashes back in. She knows the stakes, and she knows exactly what she's walking into. Diana hits the pavement, fully re-energized and immediately on the offensive. The scale of the threat is staggering. Massive, fleshy tentacles are already threading through the urban canyon of Gateway City, threatening to anchor themselves into the architecture. She knows if the Tetracide embeds itself here, the civilian casualties will be catastrophic. She has no time for hesitation, only the singular, dangerous mission of drawing this cosmic horror back to the shoreline, no matter the personal cost. Diana observes the shifting landscape as the Tetracide's lethal sonic frequency dies down. The tentacles are retreating, signaling a temporary shift in the creature's tactics, but she knows her own magical enhancements are burning out just as quickly. The threat is far from over. Because the citizens of Gateway City aren't walking into the beast's trap, the Tetracide is now actively hunting them, forcing Diana to intercept it before it can claim more lives. She maneuvers through the air, her prosthetic arm glowing with the residual energy of the ritual as she prepares for a direct engagement. A massive energy-infused blade slams into the water with a deafening kinetic force, creating a shockwave that demands the creature's full attention. Diana stands ready, calm and terrifyingly focused. She addresses the cosmic entity with a chilling, predatory confidence, fully aware that her next move is to drag this nightmare back to the shoreline, away from the city that has become its hunting ground. Diana, still holding the vial of magical essence, whispers a chilling directive. To defeat this thing, she must become exactly what it craves most. She strikes, her blade tearing through the air with a kinetic impact that screams across the skyline. The psychological assault begins in earnest. The Tetracide isn't just fighting back with force, it's projecting a psychic, agonizing cacophony, a desperate, spiraling plea of pain and madness that threatens to overwhelm everything in its path. Diana is pressed against the urban ruins, clutching her head as the magical feedback takes hold. She manages to keep her composure, steadying her companion Pegasus, even as the psychic weight of the battle threatens to buckle her knees. She knows better than anyone that power isn't free. The cost is mounting, and it's manifesting in ways that are as much mental as they are physical. The Tetracide looms over the water, its sonic assault spiraling outward in a grotesque display of pure agony. Diana realizes the terrifying truth. The weapon she's wielding is essentially her own worst nightmare, a living echo of the failure she's fighting so hard to prevent. Diana kneels, focusing her will to channel the raw energy of the ritual into a tangible form. She reflects that her initial approach was sound, but ultimately insufficient for the scale of the threat. The energy crackles under her touch, humming with an ancient, volatile power as she manipulates the magical construct. She rises, now wielding a massive, oversized blade forged from that very energy. The Tetracide looms in the background like a cosmic nightmare, but Diana is no longer just holding the line, she's escalating the conflict. A focused inset shows the sheer impact of her arrival, signaling that the time for restraint has passed. Diana's eyes burn with intensity. She knows that in a fight against a cosmic horror, victory depends on more than just strength. It's about choosing the exact weapon that can end the nightmare. Diana stands atop a colossal, shimmering blade of her own creation, a massive manifestation of her magical power. The tide of the battle is finally shifting, and with this weapon in hand, she knows that all is not yet lost. She maneuvers through the chaotic sky, her expression fierce and determined as she zeroes in on the Tetracide below. The scale of the blade is staggering, a testament to the sheer force she is channeling. She calls out to her winged companion, Pegasus, to execute the final, critical phase of her attack plan. The moment is now. With a final invocation to Athena, Diana plunges toward the cosmic horror. She demands that her blade strike with the unstoppable force of waves cutting through stone, aiming to shatter the Tetracide's defenses once and for all. Diana commits everything to the strike, reaching out through the ether to call upon the dark, complex legacy of her mother, Circe. It's a desperate plea for power, even as she remains miles from everything she's ever known. She doesn't just ask for raw strength, she demands the unwavering conviction that defined her upbringing. The giant blade begins to bite into the Tetracide's outer shell, the sheer scale of the impact dwarfing the city's skyline behind them. Focusing her energy, she invokes the indomitable will that Circe instilled in her. Diana is physically straining, pouring her own essence into the weapon to ensure it doesn't just graze the beast, but carves it open. Success. The massive blade cleaves through the Tetracide's armored hide, splitting the creature wide open to reveal the grotesque, shifting machinery of its interior. It's a devastating blow that leaves the cosmic horror reeling, but the cost of such a strike is etched into Diana's exhausted posture. Diana stands amidst the wreckage, her connection to Circe's legacy still echoing as she acknowledges the source of her recent power. The Tetracide is reeling, but the battle is being broadcast to the world, turning her desperate struggle into a public spectacle. Inside the White House, the gravity of the situation hits home. The president and his advisors are watching the live feed, completely out of their depth as the city goes silent and their own forces are cut off from communication. The panic is palpable. They aren't just worried about the monster, they're terrified of the woman fighting it. Cal delivers the chilling reality check. Even if Diana succeeds in destroying the Tetracide, the US government views her as an uncontrollable, existential threat. The stage is set for a political fallout that might be even more dangerous than the cosmic horror she's currently dismantling. And that unfortunately concludes our comic cap for today. With the US government now viewing Diana as an existential threat rather than a savior, do you think she should go on the offensive against them, or try to prove her humanity before they launch a full-scale assault? Let me know your answer in the comments section down below. Be sure to subscribe and press that notification bell for daily comic caps. Until next time, take care, brush your hair, I'll see you when I see you, peace.